Fantastic. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the mini conference series. My name is Matthew Nannis. I'm the Executive Director of PIVOTPoint WNC. We do therapeutic adventure work down in Asheville, North Carolina, in the southeast region of the country. We work with individuals who are historically referred to as at risk, and what that means, because everybody is using that terminology these days, are folks who are having a lot of difficulties or challenges with peer relationships, family relationships, struggling with school, follow through, motivation. It may or may not include relationships with substances. And we do some co-created goal-oriented setting in the natural environment and use activities similar to what Josh and his crew do at Adventure Recovery up in Connecticut. And we're really excited and appreciative of your time and your expertise. And I will stop talking and turn it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you, Matt, for asking me to speak. And yeah, my name is Josh Flaherty. I'm the Executive Director of Adventure Recovery. I'm also a person in long-term recovery myself. And I am going to just share this little PowerPoint that we got here. Okay, so as I said, I'm the executive director and co-owner of Adventure Recovery. We are a pathway through the internal and external wilderness. And what that sort of practically means is that we guide clients both on an individual model and a group model in outdoor adventure activities. We are not, what some people kind of think of as a traditional wilderness program, meaning that you are inpatient or you're out somewhere for multiple months at a time. We operate in what we call like a wilderness outpatient model, which is clients, either individual or group, are out with us for half a day, a full day, an overnight, couple nights, totally customized to whatever the client and group wants to do. But they're if it's an individual, they're living at home. Sometimes they're living in a sober living facility. And then our group clients are schools, treatment centers, sober livings, various other organizations, either for-profit, not-for-profit. We work kind of across the board. So what I want to do tonight is I want to kind of go over what the adventure recovery model is. But to start, I just want to do a quick little exercise with you guys. What do we have in front of us here? Anyone can chime in.
It is a mountain in the east.
Yep.
United States is notorious for having possibly the worst weather in the world, and indeed the
100%.
Fastest wind speed ever recorded by a human being.
Yep. So what we have here is, and yes, we do, but what we also have here is quite simply a map, right? And sort of what are some of the features that we have on this map, right? So these things right here, this is topographical information, right? We can see that by these lines here, this is a mountain. By these lines, these circles getting smaller, this is a mountain, right? We have roads. We have a lean-to over here. We have trail markings. We have a camping site here. We have the piece of the Appalachian Trail down here. And then down here on this map, we have a legend, right, that tells us all these various things that we have to help us when we're out navigating in the outdoors. A lot of times what we'll do with clients and with other professionals that we work with is having them look at what we all see as a traditional map to help guide us through the outdoors. And I I'd ask people to have like a sheet of paper and a pen, but I'm going to let you do that kind of after we're done with everything, kind of on your own time. But what's a really cool exercise is to, when you're thinking about people that you're helping in recovery, right? Whether you're a outdoor guide, whether you're a mental health professional, whether you're just someone, you know, in a 12-step fellowship or another recovery organization, to draw a map, right, of what their clients or friends or whatever, what their current recovery journey looks like right at that moment, and what are the obstacles in that recovery journey, right? That could be a mountain, it could be a river, right? And then what are some of the resources they have in that recovery journey? So, you know, there's a campsite that's a resource, or a lean-to, or, you know, trail markings, or, you know, et cetera, right? But to get in the mindset of connecting what we do out there to what's going on in our recovery journey, right? And to help them see sort of on paper, because sometimes it can get lost, all the various resources that we actually have at our disposal, right? And I've had clients, you know, draw a map and they have like a path, you know, and that's their one resource. Oh, I know this path. Well, but you have a therapist, right? Or you have a 12-step group, or you have a sponsor, right? Those are resources too. Like, let's put those on there. How do you want to depict those? You have parents who are supportive of you. Let's put that on there, right? You have access to, you know, various funds to get you into an IOP group, or whatever it may be, right? You start to come up with all these different resources we have that we can put on the map. And maybe, you know, our recovery journey right now, we're in a really tough time, so we're right at the, you know, we're traversing a mountain, but we're going to get over that and things are going to be smooth sailing for a while. But maybe a year down the road, a really tough situation in life comes up, you know, and then there's a big river that we need to cross. So helping them think of like short-term, long-term, all these various things that just come down to a simple, like reading a map, you know, and navigating with a map. It's just it's a cool exercise to do. And I found it to be really helpful. So just kind of a quick example of some of the, you know, metaphoric things maybe that we do at AR, but that also have, you know, really palpable results when you do them. So what is adventure? I will ask you guys, what does adventure mean to you guys?
Exploring, being outside, you know, getting out of just normal routine.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, I was gonna say new experience.
Awesome. Anything else?
I'd say experiences that are outside of your comfort zone, potentially.
Yep, there's some risk or danger involved, right? Webster defines adventure as an undertaking usually involving danger and unknown risks, right? Or an exciting or remarkable experience. So, obviously, adventure, you know, we think about it in the light of what we do out in the outdoors, but, you know, can recovery be thought of as an adventure by these definitions as well? Absolutely, right? You know, when you, in the process of recovery, are you undertaking, you know, in your active use, are you undertaking, you know, something that usually involving danger and unknown risks? Absolutely, right? If you think about your recovery journey as a full experience, right? And when you get to the part where you have stopped, you know, using or drinking or whatever, or stopped self-harming or eating in an unhealthy way, whatever your recovery journey might be, are you entering an exciting or remarkable experience? Absolutely, right? So life in and of itself, especially a life from, you know, mental health issues and substance abuse issues to a life of recovery, is absolutely an adventure. Like as a person, you know, in recovery or wanting recovery, you are already in an adventurous atmosphere, right? And then just kind of some of the hard numbers of like the adventure activities that we do at Adventure Recovery. This is just kind of a 1 month snapshot of what we did a few months ago. We rappelled, you know, about a half mile with various clients, climbed over almost 1,700 vertical feet, hiked a total of 780 trail miles, surfed 270 waved, and rafted 72 miles on the river. And that's between individual clients and group clients. So just, all the various things that there are to do out there to get people going. And this is just, again, a small snapshot of what we do, but it's pretty cool to think that, people that once, or that people might, call the dregs of society or whatever, are now accomplishing some of these like amazing experiences. So what is adventure recovery? Adventure recovery is the experience of walking through fire and emerging with the wisdom to guide others through the flames. Each of us has lived experience with substance use and mental health challenges and have reaped the rewards of recovery and adventure. So adventure recovery is a non-clinical model, meaning that we are not solely guided by overarching clinical principles. So we are clinically informed. We have an LCSW on our team. I have my master's in social work, but it's really, it's a peer model rather than a clinical model. So our guides are all, our coaches and guides are all people in long-term recovery who have found that the outdoors is an incredibly helpful pathway to their recovery. And then they've been trained in a variety of technical outdoor skills. So if that's rock climbing, if it's whitewater, if it's ocean surfing, if it's mountaineering, whatever that may be, they've earned the technical credentials to guide those experiences, but the soft skills come from their own personal lived experience. On the clinical front, we do have weekly all of our guides go through a weekly supervision session with our LCSW, just to make sure, that everything we're doing in the field is sound and guided by good practice principles, and also to make those connections, right? Of, well, I'm seeing this with my client, or I'm seeing that, and okay, well, that actually sounds a lot like this CBT principle or this DBD principle, right? And we can connect the dots that way, so that, because a lot of our clients have had negative experiences in a traditional therapeutic setting, or it hasn't quote unquote worked. So we want to put them in something that feels different, but we also want to acknowledge and be very aware of the fact that these sound clinical practices are sound for a reason, and we want to utilize them, but we don't necessarily want our clients to feel like it's traditional therapy. This is a shot of one of our clients on an individual immersion paddleboarding into a campground down at the other end of that lake right there. So why adventure? Well, resilience, right? Adventure activities encourage calculated risks and positive limit testing. This type of risk taking develops resilience and self-confidence, as opposed to risky behaviors associated with substance use and self-harm. So a huge part of what we do is risk management. I mean, being in adventure activities in the outdoors is inherently risky, but we want to work with our clients to help them to know what's a smart calculated risk and what is a really, dangerous risk, right? What is a risk worth taking and what's a risk not worth taking? Our sort of off the cuff way we describe this is the juice worth the squeeze? And a lot comes into that, and working with people who have had a history of dangerous risk-taking behavior, this becomes a really powerful way to not only look at the actual activity in front of us, but what are other things that they're facing in their life where this comes into play, and what are some maybe poor decisions that they made in the past that we can now correct and not have that happen as we move forward. Out of that as well, confidence, right? Technical skill building is the core of developing an adventure lifestyle. The process of trying, failing, and trying again is celebrated and leads to exponential growth, increased confidence, and mastery. For some reason, we find that there is this feeling among a lot of people that come to us that like, I have to be good at everything the minute I start. Like, there's no space to be a beginner anymore. And whether that's society dictates that or families dictate that this sense of I'm just a beginner of something is not it's uncomfortable for people to be in that space. And being a novice or beginner in an outdoor adventure technical skill is actually like an amazing place to be. And it's a place to really be celebrated, because all the learning is happening in that space, right? And the growth that's going to happen from beginner to like intermediate is a huge leap, but we have to be comfortable with being in that beginner space, being teachable, right? And same thing with recovery. I feel like, a lot of people come into recovery and like, I should know this, I got to do this, I got to, and if it's a 12-step thing, it's like, I got to do my step 9, like the minute I get in, and we need to just take a minute, right? And be comfortable with where we are and be in the moment. And once we can do that, we start to get confident in who we are in that space, and then we can move forward. And when you find a technical skill that a client really latches onto, and we start with clients and they kind of, I want to try this, I want to try this, and eventually they'll be like, okay, this is my thing, right? Okay, rock climbing is my thing. And they really start to get into it. And they're calling you and they're like, I just tied my first, figure 8 on a bite or whatever it is. And it lights that fire, and it gets them going, and as they grow in that, they grow in their recovery as well. It's a different skill set and muscle you're flexing, but they are so closely tied. And then lastly, grit. Those who possess grit are able to self-regulate and postpone their need for positive reinforcement while working diligently on a task. Embarking on an adventure is a commitment to work through planned and unplanned discomfort. A really simple way that we break this down is we want to help you feel comfortable being uncomfortable. And in the outdoors, that's easy to create uncomfortable situations, right? Whether it's weather, whether it's the activity you're doing, it's uncomfortable out there a lot. And we can manage that discomfort through gear and preparation and various other tools. But there comes a level of, I need to be able to self-regulate to get myself through this. And the parallel to recovery, pretty easy to see on this one. In early recovery, everyone's super uncomfortable. It's very hard to be in that space, right? But if we can look for the tools to get us through that next 10 minutes, through that next 30 minutes, right? What are the ways that I can sit with this and be okay with it? So we put our clients in uncomfortable situations quite often. And at first it's really challenging, but the more we do it, all of a sudden, what may have been an uncomfortable situation for them in week 2 of working with us, in week 10 or 12, they're like, I'm happy as could be right now. And it's, 38 degrees and it's pissing rain and whatever, but they're happy as a clam, so moving along. I don't know why this. So this is what we call the happy hormones diagram. When we are in active addiction, many of us, if not all of us, are looking for the release of these various chemicals in our brain. It's not the actual substance, alcohol, cocaine, heroin, whatever, right? It's not the real substance that we're chasing. It's what that substance releases in our brain, right? And the big one we all hear about a lot is dopamine. Dopamine's the happy hormone, right? It makes you feel good. But linked with that is oxytocin and serotonin and GABA, all these things. What this graphic is showing is that we can have our brains release all these chemicals in a much more natural and healthy way by doing outdoor activities, right? If you want, some endorphin release, as you can see, go trail running, go rock climbing, do some whitewater, do some real active, right? Some real active, engaging, challenging movements in the outdoors. On the flip side, if you want a serotonin release, which is more of that mind, mood kind of sensation, some natural foraging, fire building, building shelter, gathering water, those things that are almost nesting behaviors and comfort behaviors can help with a serotonin release. Dopamine, right? The reward, the pleasure, that one. If we do longer term outdoor experiences where we're summiting a mountain, right, or we're tracking an animal, or we're going through a long-term orienteering course, those are going to give us those releases. And what's amazing is we show our clients, when you take an external substance, you get this huge spike of a lot of these chemicals, right? But then the spike comes crashing down so you have your baseline, right? And the spike goes way up and then way, way down. And then you got to work really hard just to get back to baseline. Start using again, you get that little spike, not as big as the first one, and then you crash that much further down, right? Now you have that much longer to work back up to baseline. When you have a natural release of these chemicals through an outdoor activity, do you get a spike as big as when you use an external substance? No, but you do get a spike, and then you stay up there way above baseline for a lot longer as you kind of naturally trail down back to baseline. You want it again? Get back out on the river, get back out on the rocks, whatever it is, right? The last one that you hear a lot about, adrenaline, right? The energizer, the pain reliever, it's there. Adrenaline, it's helpful in certain amounts. You don't want to overdo your adrenaline rush, but you hear this one, right? Go big, go home. A lot of people say go big or go home. We say go big and go home. So go big, do it big, right? But also make sure you're doing it safely. Make sure that you're not doing it to the extreme to get that crazy adrenaline rush, that you're doing it in an unsafe manner. We want everyone to go home at the end of the day. This is our founder, Tim Wallace, took this shot before he summited Half Dome, which is right over there in the corner. But it's a cool background for me to talk about how nature inspires connection, gratitude, and awe. So connection gets us out of our heads and into a natural rhythm. Findings show that time in nature improves one's sense of self, confidence, and peer relations. So I just read an article the other day that physicians in Canada, and this has been going on for quite some time, are actually prescribing time in the outdoors as a way to relieve anxiety and depression. Now the Canadian government has said that anyone with this prescription from their physician can get a free national parks pass to any park in Canada, so that they can use that prescription, right? So the Canadian government and health system is now behind the fact that nature is a proven method to help with everyone's mental health. And when we get out into nature, so many people talk about it, it's like, oh, I feel calm, and I feel at peace, and it's my higher power. And all those things are very true, but there is a reason for that, right? Like, we as human beings were not made to sit in 8x8 squares with fluorescent light above us. We were made to move around. We were made to walk through nature. And we are part of a bigger system. We are a cog on this bigger system that is our planet Earth. And being out amongst the trees and the rocks and the plants and the animals, all of whom play their part, it helps us to better understand how we play our part, And in the recovery world, having that sense of higher power is obviously important to a lot of forms of recovery, and it's important to my recovery, but also feeling a sense of place and centeredness is a huge part of it as well. And nature seems to help our clients do that. Gratitude, obviously, another big one. Deliberate immersion in natural landscapes help us to orient to place and purpose in the moment. Realizing we are part of nature creates a sense of gratitude for who and where we are in the moment. We do activities with our clients sometimes where if we're doing a bushcraft shelter or structure, and bushcraft is a term I use for using found material or natural material to help us create things to help us thrive in the wild. Some people call it primitive skills, or some people call call it ancestral skills, survival skills. It's all sort of the same thing. But, you know, we'll do an activity where we need to gather certain kinds of wood to make, you know, to make a shelter. And sometimes it's that we need like a certain kind of like young sapling that's in the ground, just because we need the flexibility in the wood for a certain part of the structure. And we will literally have clients go up to trees and ask them if they can use this tree, ask the tree, can I use you to be part of the structure, right? And to wait for a feeling of response from the tree. And don't just rip it out of the ground, but really have a connection with that thing that you're asking to use as a tool to help you. And it's funny, like the trees that give them the response of yes, you know, they come right out rather than clients just yanking and pulling, you know, it's like there is a connection and that there is a sense of gratitude there. And again, you know, closely linked with that is awe. You know, being immersed in a lush forest, standing next to a powerful waterfall, or viewing a scenic mountain landscape can encourage more generous and positive social behaviors. And how often do we, you know, find someone, a client or a friend or whatever that's struggling, that just has this narrow view of everything, right? Like can't get past like their blinders and what's directly in front of them, and this person's doing this to them, or this challenge, or this whatever, right? And we take them out in the outdoors, and it's just open your eyes and look around and take some deep breaths and take it in and see how this big natural world is working, and just get out of yourself for a moment. It's powerful, you know, and so many people that we work with come back from being into nature in just a totally different mindset than they entered it. And that is awe for us. Mentorship, another huge part of what we do. Our motto on mentorship is know the way, go the way, show the way. So this, you know, in our one-on-one, our one-to-one individual client model, individual clients are paired with an individual mentor or guide, and that mentor knows the way, and that means that he knows the skill that they're gonna, you know, go work on, but he also knows the way that he or she got to that moment in time, and has a pretty good sense of what their client is struggling with and the path they're walking at that moment in time, right? There's that shared experience of I have been through something, not exactly the same, but something similar to what you are going through. And this is the way that I got out of it, right? So I know this way, I'm going to go this way, and I'm going to show you how to go this way. Mentors utilize their own experience and gain wisdom to help individuals achieve their own goals and to find their own path. And mentors do not just mean us, right? It's so many different people. It's coaches, it's guides, it's teachers, it's friends, it's sponsors, it's aunts and uncles, members of our family of choice. There are so many mentors in our life. And you know, when we open our eyes to that first mentor, and a lot of times for our clients, we are that first mentor, but then they start to see all these other mentors that they have in their life that they haven't necessarily recognized, right? And that be teachable, right? Have a beginner learning mindset of, I want to learn this outdoor skill, but I also want to learn this life skill. I also want to learn this emotional skill. I also want to learn this family repair skill, whatever it is, right? That we want to learn more. And there are people in our lives that are going to show us how to do that. And to that end, right, the mentorship that we create is awesome, the client guide, but the bigger thing that we really want to create is community. We want to create a community where people like us, you know, can be together in the outdoors in a safe space in recovery. Adventure experiences bring us together as a community of like-minded souls. We rely on each other in ways very different to find in any other endeavor, and this is why we go. And, you know, I know from my personal past that going and doing stuff in the outdoors also meant like partying hard in the outdoors, right? What if, with my raft guide or whoever, like they were going to get stoned after we got off the river. And so I was going to do that too. And there's a lot of that in the outdoors, but it doesn't need to be that. And in fact, from personal experience, my time in the outdoors sober is a hell of a lot more meaningful than my time in the outdoors when I was not sober. And that, everyone out there, whether you're in recovery or not, benefits from time in the outdoors, but especially for the recovery community, because that's where we're focused. We want to just encourage as many people as possible as, look, this is a resource that is all around us. It's everywhere. Everyone has access to it. It has all these benefits. Do not be afraid to access it, right? Like, let us show you the power of this. Let us show you all this fun things you can do, and that you can know that there is a recovery community doing it at the same time. Like, you don't need to be worried that it's just for whatever subset of the population you might think. It is for everyone, no matter the experience. This kind of relates back to the original map graphic I showed you guys. One of the things that typically when we first encounter a client, like on an initial assessment session, what we'll do is we'll meet the client for a hike. We'll give them a map. We'll give them a compass. We'll teach them how to use the compass. We'll teach them how to use the map, right? And then we'll say, okay, where are we going? You show me where we're going. Let's pick a point and let's navigate to get there. And what this does is it sort of immediately shakes up the preconceived notion of power dynamic, right? Because a lot of clients show up thinking, okay, well, you're just going to tell me what to do, and then I'm going to have to do that, and I'm going to resent you because you're the in charge guy or whatever. We're not the in charge guy. This is your journey, and we're going to make sure you don't veer too far off to where we're in danger, right? But outside of that, we're going to sort of let you go where you want to go. And if you want help finding where we're going along the way, ask us. Like, we'll give you the tools, we'll teach you how, but this is your journey. And so we pick a point, we navigate to there, whether it's on the trail or off the trail, and we encourage our clients to quickly go off the trail so that we can teach them like point-to-point navigation, line of sight navigation, all those various things. And that, again, that metaphorical but now literal message is there's so many ways to get to where you want to go. And if you have the tools to get there and the know-how, you can get there. And that like blows their minds. And it's really cool. It's a really cool experience. AR, sort of just kind of some more about the structure of how we work. We work on like a base camp model where we have currently our main base camp is in the northwest corner of Connecticut. So we have we run activities out of base camp. We also have guides living at base camp. All our gear is stored at base camp, and then we start many of our like overnight or multi-day expeditions from base camp, and then we'll go out and do various adventures from there. They're private, they're recovery focused spaces in nature that allow for individuals, families, and groups or organizations to immerse themselves in the outdoor experience. We are also working on a base camp in Colorado, possibly a base camp in Montana. So, these are, Connecticut is a 12-acre piece of land on one of the major rivers in Connecticut, the Housatonic. It's not some big gigantic, Knowles-esque, and for those who don't know, Knowles is the National Outdoor Leadership School, and they have these, huge 100-acre base camps. Would it be awesome for us to get there one day? Yes, but we're not quite there yet. But just having a small piece of land that is strictly for the recovery community in the outdoors, already not just from our clients, but just community partners of, hey, can we come and have, just this recovery group, from the local town, we want to just do an afternoon of in the river. Yes, please come use our space, right? Come be part of our community. And that's just a picture of one of the areas of Basecamp that's kind of our main fire. This is very early on in construction. This is one of our main fire circles, some tents. There's now these permanent lean-tos. This is all much more built out. I need to update this deck. Just some of our, kayaks and paddle boards around our fire circle, our sprinter van that's all decked out in AR stuff, all the various tools that we have to do what we do. And then just to go in a little more into our model, as I mentioned, we do group adventures, groups. Typically, smallest group we do is about 6, and we've done groups up to 40 or 50. And we do half-day adventures, which is 3 to 4 hours, full days, which is 6 to 7 overnights and multi-days. We work with recovery community organizations. We work with treatment programs, collegiate recovery, high school recovery, sober livings, prevention programs, families. We have our individual model, which is coaching. Coaching is more it's really recovery coaching, but in the outdoors. So it's the kind of foundational nuts and bolts. You're not doing any technical activities, more hiking, backpacking, swimming, those types of things. Guided skill instruction is where we get into rock climbing, whitewater, ocean surfing, skiing, all those types of things. And then multi-day immersions, we've taken clients out for as long as, I think our longest immersion was 21 days with an individual client, and over a variety of terrains and skills. And also, we do prevention and awareness programs. So we've worked with kids as young as 9 and 10, not so much on the recovery tip, but on the prevention tip, just because, again, these are life skills, and all these things are applicable whether you're struggling or not. And then finally, we do trainings. We train people to do what we do. The foundational intro level is AR Coach. It's a 5-day training. We have one coming up in July in Colorado, and another one in the late fall in Connecticut. And we teach in-depth AR philosophy, kind of how we do what we do, the specifics behind, how to safely take someone on an overnight experience, what should be in your pack, emergency procedures, wilderness first aid at the coach level. When you bump up to guide level, and we have 4 specific guide modules: river, rock, ocean, mountain. All of our guides are wilderness first responder trained, which is an 8-day wilderness medicine course. It's sort of guide standard in the guiding world to carry that level of certification. And then also all these skills, like our river guide, is skills that are concurrent with what ACA standards are, the American Canoe Association, in those various disciplines. With rocks, we're commensurate with AMGA and PCIA, and then ocean and mountain with the organizations that govern those as well. Our guide credentials are internal, but if you were to pass our rock guide course, you would be in a pretty good place to pass an AMGA SPI course, which is a single pitch instructor course. And again, on river, you'd probably be good to pass, ACA level 3 or 4 whitewater. So yeah, our mission, as I've in my very long-winded way has talked about, is to guide people through the internal and external wilderness, and cultivate a lifelong passion for learning, personal growth, and adventure. We're always looking for people who love what we do to come get involved, whether that's, as a client, whether they want to be a coach or a guide. If they're in a location that we're not, we want to try to figure out how to be in that location. That's how Matt and I started talking, and I'm incredibly grateful that we did. Right now we're in Connecticut, the Northeast. We're based in Connecticut, but we work in Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, even up into Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And then we have a base out in Colorado, and we just brought on a guy in Montana as well. Those are our major areas we are, but if there's places that we're not, where you're like, this is awesome, and I want to do this, and I want to plant the AR flag there, like, we want you to plant the AR flag there, because at the end of the day, it's about getting as many people out there as we possibly can. So, and more and more we see that science substantiates the AR mission, right? That adventure-based interventions lead to long-term sustainable healing, recovery, and lifelong fulfillment. Many of our clients use some other or rely on some other recovery supports in addition to us, and we highly recommend that, whether that's a 12-step fellowship, whether it's a therapist, a psychiatrist, an IOP group, whatever it is, right? We are not the one and only. We don't want to be the one and only. Like, we are part of a bigger picture, but we know our part and we are really good at our part, and we know our part works. It's worked for us. It's worked for a lot of others. And it's another thing to have in there. And we see more and more that these evidence-based studies are coming out that when you spend time in the outdoors, you feel better emotionally and mentally and physically. It is proven that the outdoors is good for you. So we want to get people out there. And that is it. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen, and I'll answer any questions or anything you guys want to chat about. I am happy to do so. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And if we need to go back to any slide, just let me know.
Can I jump in and just say, just to reflect a little bit and just say how much of a wonderful idea this really is. I can only really speak from my own recent experience of how much I've craved the outdoors during my own personal recovery from mental health issues and substance abuse. So I always think that this is kind of, the world is crying out for this kind of thing. I think it's innate in a lot of people, as you said during your presentation, whether or not you're struggling, this is just good for you.
Yeah.
But I have a couple of more specific questions.
Sure.
So there seem, like, I think you've sort of gone some way towards answering them. There seems to be very much an emphasis on the outdoor skills and gaining them for your clients and delivering them through your staff. What kind of, how does that balance out with some of the, I guess, the technical side of all the, I know it's a non-medical model, but presumably there has to be some time and expertise dedicated to that side of things.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
Yeah.
Beyond the mentorship.
Sure. So when we start with our clients, whether it's groups or individuals, we talk about goals that we want to accomplish, right? And those are not only technical skill goals, but where are some challenges in our lives and some obstacles in our lives that we want to overcome, and what's the timeline to do that, right? And we're going to work concurrently on both those things, and the skills that we learn out there are actually going to help us in that other pathway, right? So I'll just I'll give an example. We had a client who was really struggling with depression and introversion. He could not talk to other people, make friends, was terrified of social gatherings, right? And he wanted to learn how to rock climb. So we started doing climbing, and he had never climbed before. And at the beginning, he was totally focused on, well, I got to get to the top of this cliff. I got to get to the top of this wall. And he was not going anywhere. So we broke it down into, okay, well, where's the first place you're going to put your first toe hold, right? And now where are you going to put your hand hold after that? And where are you going to put that next foot after that? And that became, well, because he kept thinking, well, I want to go to parties and I want to meet all these friends and girls, right? But what are the initial first little steps that we're going to do, that first move that we're going to do to help us get down to that bigger goal, right? And in these climbing experiences, pretty soon I remember like literally being like, okay, we're going to put this foot here and this hand here, right? And he was 3/4 of the way up a 40-foot pitch. And, you know, we said, okay, now turn around and look where you are. And he turned around and he's like, oh my God, I'm like 3/4 of the way up this thing. He thought he was like 5 feet off the ground. And so just focusing on the small achievable steps, right? Rather than the
goals.
The big massive goals. And feeling accomplishment in those things, right? In each of those things, rather than, well, I haven't met the ultimate goal, so this is a failure. Like we deal with clients, a lot of us, and this is a big, you know, cognitive behavioral theory thing as well, like this absolute thinking, right? It's all black and white. I always do this. I never do this. I'm never going to be able to do this, right? And getting out of that black and white and those absolutes and into those shades of gray, and also that feeling of accomplishment for what we tell ourselves are these tiny little nothing things, but when in actuality are these massive things, right? These little changes that are going to bring about huge change. So having him be able to see that out in the outdoors and actually see and feel the accomplishment made the emotional steps so much more easy for him to grasp on, because we had that anchor to well, think about when you were on the rock wall, right? Think about that. And so that's kind of, I hope that answers what that was.
Yeah, it does. It actually just leads me just to for my final comment, and I'll let someone else say something. But I think the way that you've leveraged the power of the analogy of the journey, the journey of recovery, and the journey that you would go on, very effectively explained through the Mount Washington map, is also really exciting. Obviously, I've never seen the results, but that also seems like really almost a kind of like common sense approach to it. We always talk about the journey of recovery, and we never think about it in a more literal sense. And patching those two things together is a stroke of genius.
It's cool, man. I encourage you to do it for yourself, and I encourage you to walk through with others. You know, if you create a cool map, you're like, this is my journey map, my recovery map, like have someone else do it. Like, it's a really cool experience. So Matt, I see you had your hand up over there, your digital hand.
My digital hand was raised. Yeah, no, I thank you again for giving us an in-depth look of kind of what adventure recovery is and why it works. And I was messing accountability. I was messing on my phone because I was trying to research what it was. There's two concepts. There's like the biophilia hypothesis, and I can't remember what the other one is, and it's driving me nuts. But like this longing, like on a cellular level, as a human being, I long to be in nature, to feel that connection, because like on a molecular level, I am nature. Right. So that entropy is there, and that's really cool. I also, I mean, because of and we've geeked out about this before, because of what we do down in Asheville, it's so fun to provide the tangible example of, like, I'm a person who engages in traditional talk therapy. I've grown exponentially as a result of it. I'm grateful for those who are licensed clinicians and the work that they do. I'm also a person in long-term recovery, and have thrived and experienced a life I didn't know was possible as a result of the fellowship and the program that I engage in personally. And the theoretical suggestions and concepts and dialogue that I have when I'm lying on a couch and looking at the ceiling, right, which is also an effective part, I think, of what you do, right, because I'm not making eye contact, so that's disarming, and I can really just lean in. But those metaphors linked to tangible experience as opposed to hypothetical experience. I don't do well as someone in recovery who has previously lived life differently. I don't do well if I'm just playing this stuff out in my head.
Right.
So to be able to reverse engineer it down to where's the next hold, you know, or communication skills for isolation and individuals who have social anxiety. Like, if I'm not trusting and communicating with whoever's on belay, we got a problem. We got a problem. Yeah. So like, let's not, I love what you mentioned. Like, yeah, you want to be, you know, you want to be able to be the king of the party or whatever it may be. You know, like we talk with high school kids who their 5-year goal is to be a YouTube influencer.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I'm all about it. But the process of reverse engineering that to, well, then you should probably have this for dinner and you should probably go to bed by 10 o'clock.
Right.
That I can work on. I can work on going to bed at 10 o'clock tonight. I couldn't even tell you where to be. I mean, I'm in my 40s, so I have no idea how to be a YouTube influencer, but like, I can't fathom the in-between steps, but I can, I got a match so that I can get up there on the next hole. Like, I love it. And I love the simplicity of it. It's so simple because I also don't need any help complicating stuff.
Right.
So I'm such a big fan of what y'all do and the way that you do it. So I'm just.
Thanks, man. And another thing too, and this is one that clients seem to love, you know, especially clients who, you know, were in active addiction. It's like, you know, we are told or get this sense of, you know, like you're worthless, you're nothing, you know, you're whatever, right? You know how many skills and craftiness it takes to be an active long-term alcoholic or drug addict, right? Like we are skilled people by nature and have gotten ourselves into and out of X, Y, and Z, how many ridiculous situations, right? So I tell them, you have the skill set to do all this stuff. We're just playing it out in a different atmosphere, right? Instead of hustling this person or like conning whatever, right? Like we're figuring out just a different route. You know, we're figuring out a different line in the river. We're figuring out a different line on the wall, right? Like this is you have already demonstrated that you can do all these things, but it just played out in a much different way. So now we're going to put it in this way. Like, and they're like, oh yeah, you know, yeah. And then they want to talk about how they did X, Y, and Z. And it's like, I don't really care about your war stories all that much, you know, but you do, and that's great. And you can access them. So think about all the things that you had to do and go through to get wherever you wanted to go. We're not going there anymore, but I already know that you can do these things because you've told me that you can do those things. So.
Yeah, I think about even the resilience part that you're talking about. Like full stop. If you're working with us, working with Adventure, like you are resilient.
Right.
Full stop.
Right. Yeah.
We're not giving you resilience. I'm not doing anything like that. What I can do is I can introduce you to some of the examples that you've already walked through that highlight your own resilience. And now we can repurpose the resilience that's already there for pro-social, proactive, purposeful decision-making and action. So it's you come with all this great stuff.
Right. And it's a total reframing, right? And that's a huge skill too that we take directly from more clinical-based models is that, you know, you can look at anything in one light and in a totally different light and the exact same experience in two different ways. And they're two completely different things. But you, the client, get to make the choice of what way you're seeing those things. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, Josh, I just want to say thanks as well, man. I mean, that was just so insightful, you know, and, you know, from me personally, I mean, I've been following you and your journey on, you know, Instagram and Facebook for a while now. And, you know, and we've been having kind of similar parallel experiences. You know, when I came into recovery myself, you know, I was not an outdoors kind of guy at all. And, you know, my best thinking was like, because when I came, you know, my rock bottom was pretty heavy, and you know, I sort of spent the first 90 days doing 90 meetings in 90 days and just wanted to get my base solidified, but my thinking was still not quite right. And I was adamant I needed to get back into the music industry. You know, I was completely unemployable, by the way, at this point. And
you and me both, bud.
I was like, but I sort of stumbled and fell into this job, which was sort of ferrying pensioners up and down a canal in the UK, which was pulled by horses, big, fucking huge, great big horses. And it was like that experience, you know, like that summer with which, you know, which just completely connected me to nature, the outdoors, being on the water, being in charge of a boat, and and just ferrying these people up and down this canal, and just taking a step back. And it can, it did for me things that I just wasn't expecting at all. Like, it completely leveled me. It connected me to, it helped me understand what my higher power was. It helped me understand that actually I was capable of learning new skills, and I think having that experience myself and watching what you've been doing, it just kind of connects the dots for me, for what recovery has been for me in my life. And Rob and I have been talking about, looking at potential ways of running trips, like what you do in the UK. We're kind of still piecing those ideas together at the moment, but tonight's been really fascinating and really, really insightful, and really, really grateful that I stayed up and listened.
I'm super grateful that you guys made it. And look, if you guys are wanting to do stuff like that, I would love to talk more. Like, we can set up a whole other time to talk through that. And next time I'm in the UK, we can all go out and do something fun together. But yeah, man, I mean, we don't have any special magic that's different than anybody else, right? And we have skills, right, and technical skills and know-how, and it's important to have those things. But the magic is out there. The magic is nature. The teacher is nature. The healer is nature. We're the ones that help get them to there, right? But then nature does its thing, and we kind of sit back and let it happen, and that's what's so cool about it, is like, is you just got to put people in it, and the magic takes care of itself.
Yeah, it would be great if we could consult you.
Yeah, man, of course.
At some point. I mean,
happy to.
Very, very early days yet. We're just been throwing together some ideas for what we could do here.
I love it. And Matt, I will tell you, Matt is an amazing resource too. He is, we've gotten to know each other really well over the past year or so, and I love what they do down there and the way that they do it. And it's when you meet like-minded people, in this journey that are doing the same things, you're doing, and that fire is lit in the same way, we're like kindred spirits, and it's such an awesome feeling to have.
Awesome.
Yeah, if you ever think of if you're expanding AR to the UK, then
hey man, one day it's going to be worldwide everywhere. There'll be a little AR flag, anywhere. So it's, yeah, absolutely. So
well, I'm sure we could be what do you call ambassadors of some sort to you.
There you go, AR ambassadors. Yeah. Yeah, the dirtbag lifestyle for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, guys, I mean, Matt, anything else on your end? I mean,
No, I mean, this is my Zoom account, but this is your platform. I wanted to hear all things adventure recovery, and once again, it's always great to hear you talk about this stuff. Like you said, like I like getting in the same room and hearing people geek out about like how simple it can be.
Yeah.
I'll say that to kind of, I guess, piggyback on what you're talking about, like let nature do it. We had learned from an early part of sort of the 50-50 classroom perspective, like, for some reasons, like some of it is just, you can't overplan an engagement with someone who's raw and exposed and hungry for that experience. You can't overplan that. It's not possible. And the second bit is like, here's some intention, here's some curiosity that I want to plant, and then let's just go into the container and see what happens. Like the meaning making is there. That's why the intentions you were talking about that you set with your clients in the beginning, they're drawing those own conclusions that, like the tree bark doesn't look like my uncle,
right?
But when I'm in that headspace and that's what we're talking about, and I got family relation and family system cycles going on, that tree bark looks like my uncle, and I can then have an engaged conversation with all the things that I wanted to say but couldn't say. So it's really an inspiring thing that you're doing, and I appreciate the way in which you carry yourself and the programming that you do, and Yeah.
And
I'm
just to
grateful to
real quick on that, and just real quick, and one of the things that, you know, anytime we go out with a client or a group, or it doesn't matter, right? We in that intention, you know, time at the beginning, we also do a incredibly simplistic check-in, which is basically take your you know, hand, put it in the middle of the circle or between us or whatever, and now stick your thumb up like this, right? And this is your moodometer right here. See this thing? This is your moodometer. And when we start, it's like, show me where your mood is. You know, are you down here? Are you here? Are you here? Not so that we can see where your mood is, but so you, the client, can see where your mood is, right? And then at the end, show me where your mood is again, right? And oftentimes you get this guy comes out here, and you get the old, you know, this thing, right? But again, it's just so that they have an awareness of, wow, this really did change the way that I felt, you know, and having nothing to, and whether we accomplished our goal or not, or whatever their expectation was or not, you know what I mean? Just the awareness of, wow, this intentional time in the outdoors really did make me feel better. And it is, look, do we sometimes have the person that's like, this sucked? Yeah, because, you know, that happens. But I would say over 90% of the time, their mood improves after we've done something outdoors. And that, just for them to know it, you know, for me to know it is one thing. For them to know it is a totally different thing.
Totally. We tell clients coming in, and even like referral sources, that our guides, among many things, really just have the best flashlights.
Yeah, right.
Like, we're going to highlight the experience that you're having, because we have the unique perspective of not having the emotionally attached narrative that you're assigning to yourself in your own experience. I don't have the preconceived notions or concerns or anxieties about how other people think you are.
Right.
I just get to watch you having a good time and grow, and maybe breathe a little easier. I watch your shoulders go down and go back.
Yep.
I can actually see your jaw unclench.
Yep.
You don't notice those things.
Right. But I do.
Yeah. And I'm gonna ask if you're curious about it. Like, where are you feeling in your gut right now? Like, do you still feel that tension that you did when you came in and we told you we were gonna do a double pitch? Like,
right.
No, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Awesome. Well, guys, again, thank you so much for hopping on. I know it's late there and taking the time. And Matt, thank you again for hosting me and all the amazing work that you guys do. And if Adventure Recovery can be helpful to any of you guys in any way, or anyone that you know, please do not hesitate to you know what? I will can I chat people? How do I, Matt, can I chat in this thing? How does that?
I made you co-host. I think you could do a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh, chat. Here we go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. This is my email. This is my cell phone. Please do not hesitate, guys, to hit me up for whatever. Love helping people, love helping people in the outdoors, helping people in recovery. If you need help repairing your television, I'm probably not the guy to call, but you know.
Awesome.
You try anyway.
Yeah, but I'll try it. I'll fiddle around and, you know, kind of try to seem like I kind of know what's happening. So
yeah. Just long enough before you can bail on.
Yeah, right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again. Thank you all for being here. It is pretty late for you all. And this will be up on our website, and you know, our mission is right there with you, Josh. Like, we're trying to amplify access to the outdoors, and remove whatever barriers we can. So if likewise, if we can help you to that end, we're happy to leverage anything that we have in our toolbox to do so.
Awesome.
Hope you all have a good night.
Yeah, guys.
Thanks so much, Matthew.
Thank you,
All
guys.
right.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Josh.
Take care, fellas.
Thanks, Gav.
Thanks, Matthew.
care.
Thanks, Josh.
Adios.